Did you know of a monk who changed the world with a garden full of pea plants? And that is how, ladies and gentlemen, we introduce you Gregor Mendel, a name immortalized through centuries. Gregor Mendel was an Austrian monk and mathematician who single-handedly documented the particulate mechanism of inheritance through his experiments with garden peas. Genius, right? Fun fact, Mendel dropped out of college twice. In the 1800s, people were concerned with the roots of heredity. They believed in the blending hypothesis. Here, genetic material contributed by both parents mixes blue and yellow to make green. Mendel worked with garden peas to unearth this mystery. Why did he choose garden peas? They were available in many varieties, were capable of producing a large number of offspring, had a short lifespan, and Mendel was able to strictly control their mating.
Mendel's first law. Mendel studied the genetics of pea plants and he considered the inheritance of 7 different traits, which were the flower color, seed color and shape, pod color and shape, flower position, and the plant height. Let's look into how Mendel carried out his experiment for the flower color. In the parental or P generation, Mendel crossed a pure breeding purple flowered plant with a pure breeding white flowered plant. He then collected the seeds and grew new plants from them. Astoundingly enough, he found that every single plant in this generation, which is known as the F1 or the first filial generation, produced purple flowers. Mendel didn't stop his experimentation there. Instead, he allowed the F1 plants to self-fertilize and he obtained a 3:1 ratio of purple flowered plants to white flowered plants in the F2 or the second filial generation. He proceeded by carrying out this experiment for the other 6 traits as well, and he obtained similar results. As it turned out, the 3:1 ratio was what made Mendel to crack the puzzle of inheritance. Based on this magical ratio, Mendel came up with a model for the inheritance of individual characteristics such as the flower color. Hold the trait that was visible in the F1 generation, which is the purple flower color, in our example as the dominant trait, and the trait that was suppressed was called the recessive trait, and it is the white flower color in the example we considered. If we are to consider the genotypes of the flowers, we would observe that the pure breeding purple flowers are homozygous dominant, which is shown here as P, and the purple flowers we obtained in the F1 generation are heterozygous, which is shown here as P simple p. The white flowers are always homozygous recessive, which is shown here as simple p. From this, Mendel introduced his first law, which is the law of segregation. During gamete formation, each member of the allelic pair separates from the other member to form the genetic constitution of the gamete.
Having discovered a peculiar ratio with the monohybrid cross, Mendel didn't stop. As his next move, Mendel started crossing pea plants with 2 traits which were seed color and shape. A true breeding plant with yellow rounded seeds was crossed with a true breeding plant with green wrinkled seeds. All F1 plants were dihybrids, that is, heterozygous for both seed color and shape, and had yellow rounded seeds. Are these 2 characters transmitted from parents to offspring as a package? That is, will the Y and R alleles always stay together, generation after generation? Or are the seed color and seed shape inherited independently? The key step in the experiment is to see what happens when F1 plants self-pollinate and produce F2 offsprings. So, the F1 plants were self-pollinated, and this is known as the dihybrid cross.
When Mendel did the experiment, he observed the F2 offspring in the phenotypic ratio of 9:3:3:1, which supported the hypothesis that the alleles for one gene segregate into gametes independently of the alleles of any other gene. This suggests that genes are packaged into gametes in all possible allelic combinations, as long as each gamete has one allele for each gene. Here, the F1 plant will produce 4 classes of gametes in equal quantities. Mendel tested his 7 peak characteristics in various dihybrid combinations and always observed a phenotypic ratio of 9:3:3:1 in the F2 generation. Mendel's dihybrid experiment was the basis for the law of independent assortment, which states that 2 or more genes assort independently, That is, each pair of alleles segregates independently of any other pair of alleles during gamete formation. This law applies only to the allele pairs located on non-homologous chromosomes or to genes that are very far apart on the same chromosome. Mendel hypothesized that each parent contributes some factors to the offspring. During Mendel's time, genes were not yet discovered, hence he had no idea about them. For each of the triads he examined, Mendel focused on how the factors that determined the particular triad was distributed among the progeny. But we now know that a single gene could control the seed form, whereas another could control its color and so on. We also know that factors are the assembly of physical genes located on chromosomes, which is known as a gene. Do all organisms pass on their genes in the same way as the garden pea plant? Are there any deviations of Mendel's two laws? These are questions that I'll leave with you. And with this, we end our video. Hope you got a better understanding on Mendel's laws.